Hello, my beautiful people. So I promised Alicia I would do this video. It is 4:15 in the morning. I can't sleep. I fell asleep, then I woke up because I got cold. So I took a bath and I fell asleep in the bathtub. And then my son woke me up, scared the absolute crap out of me. So here I am. Here we are, awake. So I figured I'd do it now. So before I get started, I have some disclaimers. Number one, I never followed Ruby Franke's channel, 8 Passengers, when it was on. I wouldn't watch any of that kind of content. I'm not Mormon. I think I do an okay job parenting. I wasn't looking for content like that, so I never saw her channel when it was live. I never heard of Connections. I actually never heard of these two before the trial. If you're unfamiliar, Ruby Franke was a very famous Mormon blogger who blogged the lives of she and her husband and their 6 children on a channel called 8 Passengers. She kind of went away from the channel when she met this lady named Jody Hildebrandt, who was a licensed therapist and sanctioned by the Mormon Church. So they were charged with, pled guilty to, and have been sentenced now for aggravated child abuse. And because the 12-year-old son managed to climb out a window, run to a neighbor, showing that he had been duct taped and abused, and his little sister was recovered from the house of Jody Hildebrandt. So there's tons online. If you've not heard this story, definitely look it up. You will go down a rabbit hole. So here are my disclaimers. I am not a Mormon. I know a little bit about the Mormon Church. There are 2 very distinct kinds of Mormons. They're the really way out there ones that, have the big cult compounds and stuff, that have the bazillion wives and all that. Most Mormons are not that kind of Mormon. Most Mormons are the other kind of Mormon, and Mormonism was started by a person they call a prophet named Joseph Smith. Everybody I've met, I've actually done work with some people at Brigham Young in my career, and everybody I've worked with on other projects who are Mormon have all been lovely people, very family focused, very dedicated to their families, very nice, very humble, kind people. So, to tell you what I think, I have to start with what I think about Mormonism. It is not up to me on my path to judge any other path, so I'm not judging the path of Mormonism. However, in looking at it objectively, it looks like it's a religion created by a guy who wanted to be a pedophile and marry multiple women. So he combined different things from Masonry, Christianity, and he kind of put it all together, and he must have been very charismatic because he got followers, and he started his own religion. And there are millions of people in it. I don't know how it's organized or anything like that, but I do know they have very strict rules about who can go into temple and how people get married. And if you want to learn all about that kind of stuff, there's all kinds of videos online. But I had been to a Mormon wedding, which I wasn't allowed in the main room where my friends were getting married. They piped it out, and we were all in a different room in a different building. Because we couldn't be present because we weren't Mormon, which I thought was such a strange thing. But again, not judging, people believe what they believe, and that's up to them. I think Mormonism is a sham. I don't think it's a cult. A cult suggests that you can't leave it, and they get off on the same technicality that the Amish get off on, right? So I think the Amish are far more a cult, but you can leave it. I mean, you will not have family. You will be alone. It will be horrible for you, but you can leave, right? And the same is true of Mormons. All of your friends' family, or maybe your family's been Mormon for generations, and when you leave, it causes family problems, right? So, what I will say about Joseph Smith is that he picked parts of Christianity and Masonry that really focused on family values and being close-knit families. The husband is the head of the household. The wife submits to the husband, very conservative, traditional. And those same views are shared by conservative Anglicans, conservative Roman Catholics, born-again Christians and faiths like that. So those teachings are pretty consistent with other conservative religious practices. So keep that in mind. I don't know anything about Mormonism, and I didn't follow this channel. So I watch the news, I pay attention to things like this. And I remember when the news broke that this 12-year-old boy had escaped from this compound, or this house, and went to the neighbor, and thank God the neighbor was home, and this whole story broke. And so I've been following it since it started. So let's start with Ruby Franke, who is the mother of these 6 children, and the 2 children that were recovered. On her channel, which I did not watch, she was already an abuser before she met Jody Hildebrandt, in my opinion. And she made no qualms about it because she called her abuse love. And she, the 2 famous ones, because I've seen clips now, the 2 famous examples are, one, she took her son's bed away because he had been teasing a brother, I guess, another sibling, and she took his bed away, not for a month, or not for a day, but for a month. You don't get to take your child's bed away for a day. Not even. Sorry. I mean, I came from a very disciplined home, very strict, very Republican, very conservative, very religious. At no point was my bed ever taken away from me. My toys were, if I was being naughty, and I had to sit in a timeout chair, and I got pepper put on my tongue and soap a lot. And some people would even maybe say those things are abusive. I don't think those are abusive, but you don't take away, a bed. And she was gleeful about why she took away the bed. She interviewed the boy. I mean, how sick, how twisted. Worse, her kindergartner, I guess the kids are all responsible for packing their lunch for school. Perfectly acceptable. Her kindergartner, how old are you in kindergarten, 4 or 5? Forgot her lunch. So the school called and said, would you like to bring the lunch in? And she said no. She needs to learn. She needs to be hungry. She needs to learn that she can't forget her lunch. A kindergartner. A tiny little human. So when later on, when she goes to blame Jody Hildebrandt for all this stuff that's going on, sorry lady, don't buy it. You were abusive already, and it's documented, and the whole world saw it. People were making complaints about her parenting then, using YouTube clips, and there was way more than that. Those are the 2 famous ones, but people were already, calling in, you need to check this lady out. Neighbors were calling in before she met Jody Hildebrandt. But she wasn't as extreme as things would get. So she meets this chick, Jody Hildebrandt, who by all accounts is the Charles Manson of 2024. And she has ruined countless families. Countless families. But she was sanctioned and promoted by the Mormon Church in whatever district. I don't think it's like the whole Mormon Church. I think it's like that particular branch, I don't know if they're branches or dioceses or whatever, like that group of Mormons. She was promoted, and they would tell married couples who were struggling to go to her, and then she would ruin consistently. We're not talking once, we're not talking twice, we're talking hundreds of families were ruined by this woman. She would use the flame words. I don't know what you can say on Facebook. I'm not monetized, so I guess it doesn't matter. She would accuse the husband of being a pedophile and get him out of the picture, and slowly just isolate the wife away from all of her extended family. And then Jody would have complete control of the family. And the abuse of these children, it's horrifying. She threw children into cacti. She made them stand in the hot sun in Utah, in the sand, for days. Little children. You shouldn't do that to adults, even. But these little children, they hog-tied the son, the 12-year-old, with duct tape, hands to feet, because he had tried to run away, and with duct tape. And then the wounds, the natural remedy was cayenne pepper. This is a licensed psychologist, a family counselor promoted by the Mormon Church. Her number given out by the bishops and the people and whatever. So this very brave guy, I think his name is Adam Paul something. He has been, for the past 20 years, compiling, like, legit evidence. Legit, like, court documents, things like that. He got her license suspended, and she had to go to training. She had to go to retraining so that she would stop this nonsense. She passed that with flying colors, came back, and did it again. And now she got caught. So they both pled guilty to either 4 counts or 5 counts of the 6 counts of aggravated child abuse. And Utah has some really stupid ways of the way that they do justice. So they were just sentenced the other day, which is why this is all back up in the news. And really all the judge decides is if the terms are going to be consecutive or if they're going to happen all at once, and how many years, a range of years that can be lobbied or issued by the pardons board. So they each got, it must be 4, it's 4 consecutive counts, so they have to do them consecutively, one after the other, and it can go from 1 year to the max, which is 15 years, and then so they could potentially, in theory, do 60 years, but Utah has a cap of 30 years, so they're doing 4 to 30 years, and that's determined by the parole board. And I don't know if the parole board decides that like now, and then every year they go up to see if they change their mind, or if every year they have to apply for parole. I have no idea what happens. So who should get more time? Personally, I think they should both get the max. That kind of abuse, I don't care. Ruby in court read a very impassioned statement. She was crying. She was looking at the cameras. I don't know. You know, she's changed her tune. They say, I'm not God, so I'm not going to judge her. Maybe she is sincere. Maybe now that she's out of the grip of the cult, maybe she has seen the light. So I don't want to say that she hasn't seen the light. I don't care. You should get the full sentence. You should never, ever be allowed to be around your children unless they want closure and they want to say something to you. Like, you should never be able to see them. There's a husband, by the way. There's this husband who was gone for a year, Kevin Franke, because Jody separated. Like, you know, like that was always her thing that she would do. She would go in, she'd make the husband leave, accuse him of sexual assault to the children. And so he didn't have contact with Ruby or the children for a year. You're an abuser too, Kevin. I'm sorry. Like, your job in the Mormon Church, this part I know, when you took your marriage vows, you accepted your wife, and she agreed to submit to you. You were the head of household. You were abusing these children on YouTube before Jody Hildebrandt came in the picture. You are responsible too. You should not have access to your children either. You were not. I mean, I do believe that Jody was the number one culprit and the reason how your marriage fell apart. I'm sorry that happened to you, but you should have taken a stand. You should have taken those children away from them. You had every opportunity. You were the only one who could do it. You were the only one. The only one who could do anything. The oldest sister tried calling in to get the children taken away, to have investigations, but because the law in Utah is so in bed with the church, nobody would listen to her. You, as the father, had every opportunity to do that for your children, and you did not do it. You did not protect them. You did not protect them, and you allowed somebody else to come in and run your marriage. When in your temple card, your temple recommend card, when you go into the temple, you agree to this list of stuff, and on that list is that you are upholding the rules. And the rule of marriage is that you are in charge, and you did not do that, and then you lied and went and templed. You need to not see those children either. You did not protect them. Sorry. I don't know what's worse, that she, I mean, it's worse that she did it, obviously, but you stood by and watched. You stood by and ignored it for a year. You let it go. Like, what were you thinking? That would never fly in where I live, ever, ever. You know, you can think about the rest of the world as being godless, but I don't know anybody in my immediate circle, anybody in my extended, work circle that would allow such nonsense, and you should be held accountable too. Just saying. So, of Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt, who's more responsible? Well, I don't think that Ruby Franke is a threat to society. I think she will, if she is sincere, she said, if what she said was is sincere, then I think, she's going to get counseling and do the things she needs to do. She'll probably try to repair her relationship with her children, but quite frankly, it's not her choice anymore. It's theirs, and they get to say, and she can't manipulate them anymore. I think she's a bit of an actress. Remember, she abused these children before Jody Hildebrandt came on the scene. So, and she knows how to play a camera, and she knows how to look innocent and sweet. So, do I believe her? I kind of do believe her, actually. I do believe that now that she's out of the fog of the cult, I think she sees how she was led astray. But I think she just thinks, like, whoopsie, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Everybody come back. Those children don't have any obligation to that woman at all. Her family has been very gracious. Her sister, I think two of her sisters, but one that I've watched, is a YouTuber. And because you wonder, you're like, how did this family not see this? Like, how did they? But she alienated the family. And the sister made this really good point. She's like, I'm my own person. I did what I could do. There was nothing more I could do. And I can't continue to live in the shadow of my sister. Like, what she did was what she did. And like, we don't know the full story. And that's absolutely truth. And that's absolutely fair that we, because in the beginning I was all hot. Like, why did this family, like every adult in these children's lives failed them miserably. Their parents, their teachers, their neighbors, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles. But it's a bigger story than that. And in many cases, people did try to do things. The neighbors called repeatedly. The schools called repeatedly. They tried to do what they could do within the law, but that the law is, Jody Hildebrandt had a hold on the church, and probably with threats and charisma. Remember, she's Charles Manson. She's a psychopathic, narcissistic woman. And so I feel in some way, I know this sounds ridiculous, but in some ways I feel like maybe even the Mormon church is one of her victims, because she would manipulate information so that she looked great and everybody else looked horrible. I think, though, that you can only get away with that like one time or two times. Like, over a course of years, if all these families that you are sending to this woman are breaking up in divorce, ugly, horrible divorces, where all these men are being accused of sexual abuse, if that's happening over and over and over again, wouldn't you look into that? Wouldn't you, as a church and a bishopry or whatever the hell it's called, wouldn't you look at that and be like, who is this person? She eventually did lose her standing in the Mormon church, but then, Jody blamed the church for that, and, and convinced Ruby that the church is corrupt and yada yada. So, I think they should both get the max. I have a feeling Ruby will get less. But that's okay, because she really isn't a threat to society. She shouldn't get less than 18 years. She should get 1 year for each year of their childhood, period. That's how many years I would give her, 18 years. I would throw the book. I would absolutely throw the book at Jody Hildebrandt, because she was a licensed counselor, and she has shown no remorse. In the court, in the sentencing, she showed no remorse, and they said that she's been on phone calls, recorded phone calls, blaming the children. And her lawyer I mean, he's her lawyer, so he has to, like, stand up for her. It's like, she, you know, she thinks she would have made different choices. Yet, your different choices, Jody, we all know would have been to duct tape him harder or kill him so that he didn't get out and ruin your life. Like she wasn't, and she started off so gaslighting. I love these children. You don't get to love these children. Number one, they're not yours. And number two, you abuse them. You poured cayenne pepper in their rooms. You threw a little tiny girl into a cactus. It's not love. That's not discipline. You convinced her she's evil. This poor little girl would not come out to the police because she was so convinced that she was evil, because she was told by her mother and this crazy lady that she was evil. So Jody holds, because she's ruined so many families, and Adam and his father have compiled all of this evidence. And it's not just like stories like Susie's story down the street and this. It's like evidence compiled from like court records, court documents, church records, church documents. You know, she has done this to countless families and has gone unchecked. And she should serve a maximum sentence, period. She is a danger to society. She should not get out. So if she would serve the 30 years, because remember, that's the max. I think she's 40-something, so she'd be in her 70s. And people still believe her. I can't believe it. But, like, look at Manson. Look at serial killers. Adam compares her to, is it Paul Bundy? Not Paul Bundy. Ted Bundy, right? Like a serial killer. Like, why do they do what they do? Because they're narcissistic, and she gets a thrill. She gets a thrill out of the abuse. I think that she has an affinity for women. You know, she borderlines on sexual relationships with the women, and in her culture, you know, homosexuality is very frowned upon. So perhaps this is her lashing out because she couldn't be a lesbian, and so her twisted mind thought that she could break up all of the marriages of women that she wanted to be with. I don't know. And then to systematically get rid of children. I mean, she's there's a psychiatric issue there, clearly. She should spend her life in prison. As for the children, I wish them all of the best of light and love, and I hope that wherever they are, because I think DCS still has them, wherever they are, I hope that they're getting comforted. I hope they're getting counseling. I hope that they're able to heal, and I hope that they become millionaires from everything that Jody Hildebrandt has to sell and give to them, so that they can have all the support they need throughout their life. And kudos and gold star to that boy. I mean, how courageous is that little boy? Because when he ran away the first time, they caught him, and that's when all the duct taping and the cayenne pepper started. How brave was that boy? And he is, those two children, I can't even, and the other children too, like, I mean, there are 4 other children who've been abused too. Maybe not to that same degree because they're a little bit older, but they've all been abused too. So I'm wishing them all light and love, and hope that they can someday trust adults, trust the church, trust the system, trust the cops, trust the justice system, all of whom failed them. And I hope they have somewhere to go. So, Alicia, that's what I think about Ruby Franke and Kevin Franke and Jody Hildebrandt. I'm wishing all of you all the best in light and love. Remember, these are just my opinions. You are free to believe whatever it is you believe, and I'd be interested in hearing your comments. I'm not going to battle with you over your beliefs, because your beliefs are your beliefs and mine are mine. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.